Hi everyone, thanks for joining this webinar presented by igus about actuators and their use in lab and medical machinery. I'm going to be going through what igus is, who igus is, what Drylin is, show you different actuators, and then show you applications we've solved using igus parts. On the screen here you can see kind of the agenda for today, and if there are any questions you can always feel free to call igus. We're going to provide plenty of contact information at the end. Otherwise, I'm just going to get started. So if you're unfamiliar with igus, our mission statement is to improve what moves with motion plastics, to be carbon neutral, reduce plastic waste, and be the easiest company to work with in the industry. And briefly about our background, we are a German family-owned company. We were started in the 1960s in Cologne, Germany. What you see there is our primary headquarters, but we actually own and utilize a lot of the buildings ancillary to that. As well as we're expanding in Cologne, we actually dug under that highway there and we put a new facility up. It's actually going online right now. But we do have locations in 35 countries, just under 5,000 people work for igus worldwide. We're able to offer worldwide supports on your global projects. I know a lot of us are working with maybe designs in the US that get produced offshore. So we're able to support those quite easily within the igus family. We have 800 plus injection molding machines in Cologne, Germany. I'm going to talk about igus Incorporated now here in North Providence. So I'm in our East Providence facility, and here we have just under 500 people in North America between the US, Canada, and Mexico. About 120 of those are factory trained outside salespeople who do offer on-site consultations as well as Teams calls. We have plenty of support. We have groups of product specialists and inside sales here in Providence as well. From this facility, we ship about 85 to 90% of the product same day. So if you call in with an order in the morning, you can rest assured that if it's a stock part, no modifications were necessary, that we should be shipping that part same day. We also recently put online injection molding facility here in Rhode Island at one of our older buildings. So on here it says we have headquarters of about 225,000 square feet. We actually have a couple of other buildings with just about the same amount of area. Where, like I mentioned, we do injection molding and also have some off-site storage, as well as we are expanding here in Providence, where we have a lot of land that we're going to be building on in the next couple of years to expand and better support the customer base. What are motion plastics? I mentioned that earlier. So igus develops composites that are specifically used for motion projects. So that can be anything from a bearing or an energy chain system. So when I say energy chain, I'm talking about the things that would guide and protect cables and hoses in dynamic applications. Something like this would be an example of one used on a lab device. We do have micro series. We also go up to very large systems that are like 800 millimeters in height. Aside from the cable carrier itself, we design and develop our own high flex cables, which resist corkscrewing and are really specifically meant to be utilized in high flex applications. So you might see some applications come up with these as well in conjunction with some of our Drylin linear components, but just wanted to put that out there. We also offer several different product lines, which we call iGlide, which are press fit bushings for pivoting and rotary applications, and as well as rod ends, spherical bearings, basically any bearing type that you can think of that can be molded. igus has a product for that. But the product line we're going to focus on mostly today is called Drylin. And before I get into that, I should talk about the polymers themselves. So what is drytech? So we do not provide simple plastic solutions for customers. We've been developing composites for linear motion and pivoting motion since the middle 60s. We use base polymers to get the general characteristics of the bearing we're trying to develop. That will dictate the speed and load and characteristics for temperature. To that, we add fibers and reinforcing compounds, could be carbon fibers, could be glass fibers. And into that, we also introduce solid lubricants, such as Teflon or silicone, although we are working on PFAS-free bearings as well, because we know that's a growing concern in the market. The main thing about all of our bearing materials is that they don't require lubrication. But how do you know they work? Well, igus has the world's largest motion plastics test lab in Cologne, Germany. We test over 300 new materials every year. You can see here that we have 11,000 tests that we conduct across all the product lines. All of this information gets filled into our online configurators and expert systems, which I'll go through here in a second as well. Now, the main benefits of these composite plastics is that they don't require external lubrication. So basically, the bearing, as it moves along a shaft or a guide rail, deposits basically its lubrication on the microfinish of the shaft. That never needs to be reapplied. There's no maintenance. It is always intended to run dry, clear, and free of any lubrication. Aside from that, they are extremely lightweight. Our linear bearing systems can be as low as 25% the weight of linear ball bearing systems. Because they're plastic, they're very vibration dampening and quiet. They're about 4 times quieter than linear ball bearings as well. And because they have no lubrication, they lend themselves to work very well in dirty environments, but also sensitive, clean lab environments, as you'll see here in the next few slides. igus is committed to sustainability. We realize we make plastics, but less than 0.5% of all oil consumption actually goes to the creation of engineered plastics. So our plastics are meant to improve machinery and remove any wet or oil or grease lubrication in machines. Roughly half of all lubrication used in industrial use ends up back in the ground. And also, more than 54% of all bearing failures are actually related to a lubrication issue, whether it was improperly lubricated or if there was some contaminant in the lubrication. With igus, you don't have to worry about that. Also, we use 99% of all of our waste material. So sprues from the injection molding process are reground and used for other purposes, other materials at igus. As well as last year alone, we planted more than 45,000 trees as part of an initiative to stabilize the carbon footprint. So because of igus motion plastics, because of the benefits of our composite polymers, the lab and lab automation, any type of medical equipment is a big industry for igus. These are resources you can go to if you're interested in learning more about igus parts for lab use or lab topics in general. Please feel free to go through those. But what is Drylin? I said that word earlier. It stands for dry running linear bearings. As you'll see here in a second, we offer more than just the linear bearing, but everything again is intended to be quiet, lubrication free, and work well, particularly in lab applications. So the product range itself ranges from our Drylin linear bearings and components. So you can purchase just a simple liner from us. I shouldn't say simple, these are actually highly engineered for linear motion, but a liner from igus all the way up to a turnkey linear actuator, which could include sensors, which could include the cables, as well as our D1 motor control unit. So we have all sorts of options. We also have a lead screw series we call Dryspin, and we have tons of motorized solutions for that as well. So how does Drylin differentiate itself from ball bearings? So most of our competition does make recirculating ball bearings. They do require grease and oil. There are certain times, of course, you need maybe the precision that a linear ball bearing has, but you're paying maybe for more and you're having to introduce lubrication into the system. So whenever you can, we'd like to help you find ways to utilize Drylin in those applications. And because they're dry running, they work well with shocks, corrosion resistant. I'll go over materials here in a minute. They work well in dirt, and again, they're 4 times quieter and considerably less weight than linear ball bearing systems. There are a number of copycat parts that might look like Drylin in the marketplace. I kind of wanted to go over igus in particular because we've been developing these compounds, these bearing materials since really the 1960s. But Drylin first came out as a linear bearing product line in 1996. The first material we used was this yellow material, which we call iGlide J, which although it was from 1996, we still use it in almost, I would say, most of our linear bearing applications. It has the best combination of wear and technical properties and costs that a lot of our customers are looking for. However, we realize that there are applications sometimes where you want higher loads, or you want extra corrosion resistance, or you need to be maybe resistant to some moisture. We've developed other compounds for that. One of them we call X. X is a material that's capable of withstanding temperatures of up to 250 C continuous and is universally chemically resistant. A newer material, which is this blue one here that we've developed over the past few years, is the latest version of our FDA compliant linear bearing material. We call this A160. And this works very well, not only with chemicals, but also with stainless steel shafting. And all of these work with common cleaners in the lab related industries. They're listed here: isopropyl, ethanol, bleach, ammonia. They're resistant to those chemicals. You don't have to worry about the introduction of them into the bearing system. Now, as far as guide shafts, rails, and lead screws, the most common ones that we supply to lab automation projects are stainless steel. One big benefit of using a dry running linear bearing, plain bearing, is that it can work on soft shaft materials. So we actually have systems like this belt drive here that are based on soft stainless steels, 304. We have systems that are completely 316 if you need the kind of the ultimate in corrosion resistance. And then all of our lead screw products are 304 stainless, or at least they're offered in 304 stainless. We have housings made of stainless steel, and then a lot of the product lines that we use in lab automation involve just a standard hard anodized or a standard anodized part like this one here. All of our guide rails come in cut basically between 2 and 4 meter lengths in the back. There's no cutting charges. We cut them to your requirements and ship them out same day. We have low cost zinc, which isn't always the best solution for chemistry in certain applications or chemicals, but we offer them in stainless steel as well as hard anodized aluminum. If you're an OEM and you're worried about the bare ends where we've machined or cut the rails, not only can we anodize the part complete, but we also have full machining capability to custom holes, custom drilling patterns in your parts as well. I should also note, most of this presentation is geared towards lab or diagnostic machinery, but if you're working in the imaging sector, you may want the MRI, you may want to have non-magnetic components. So we do offer series round shafting in carbon fiber. We offer carbon fiber actuators as well as carbon fiber linear guide rails. All right, I mentioned earlier we have the world's largest motion plastics test lab in Cologne, Germany, 11,000 tests plus a year. All of that information actually gets fed into these online expert systems or lifetime calculators, as well as configurators. They're all available online. These ones on the slide deck here are particular to the linear bearing products. Anything from determining which actuator would work longest and best for your application. That system also provides information on motor torque requirements or can recommend igus motors. Most of the expert systems will provide you a step drawing and a 2D drawing and the ability to purchase the part online. In fact, if you purchase some of the actuators online using the expert system, we're now able to offer a warranty. More on that to come in the next few weeks, but that is something in the works. But if you have a lead screw that you want to machine, you can go online, customize it online for what you're looking for, and get provided with a 3D print, a 2D print, drawing, as well as price to order the part right away. So it's super easy. You can always use the configurators online, but another step would be you could simply call igus. Again, the contact information will come later in the presentation, but we have product specialists inside and outside salespeople that are willing to help you along in your application. Okay, so now we're going to get on to the igus actuator offering. And we have a few different varieties. I've kind of broken it up into our what I would consider our standard or classic actuators. Then we've really been developing miniature and smaller actuators for lab devices because we know that's what a lot of the market is looking for. And then we also have some specialists that I'll highlight as well towards the end. But to start with the classic systems, igus has two main types of actuators that I would say account for 95% of all the product that ships from this building. We offer belt-driven systems. This one here is a very common size used in lab. This is called the 0630 belt drive. This is a 6mm diameter guide rail. You can kind of get an idea of the size. This can be outfitted with stepper motors, which include encoders or brakes if required. We also have DC motors if you're looking for just a more simple application. The benefit of the belt drive is that you can handle high speeds with low loads, much better than a lead screw system can. I'll get into lead screws here in a second. But with these systems, we offer the brackets and the sensors as well, if you want to purchase those. And I mentioned earlier, all the cabling that you would need to take your motor and your sensor information and encoder to the drive controller, which I'll go over in a second as well. Now, these are cut from long lengths. So the parts online, or the parts on the screen, were shots from our website that are set at pre-cut lengths, because they're already ready to go and shipped to you. But it is very easy for these to be simply cut to length, and they're very modular. So again, on the actuator configurator, you can actually change the direction of the motor. You can change which side the motor is driven from. You can change the length of the carriage. There's options you can utilize using the configurator for that. Then we also have our classic lead screw systems. We have this one here has got a hand wheel on it, so it's probably not ideal for a lot of automated applications, but this is what we call igus SLW. It's based on our Drylin W linear guide rails, which are very low profile and compact and are available in multiple different materials. But the SLW and the SAWs these are very popular in the lab space for us. Tons of different lead screw options. We go from size 6mm guide rail all the way up to size, I think 60 now for shafting for these. So we go from very small products to very huge parts. So we've kind of covered everything with this product line as we've gone along. So the lead screw systems are more ideal for positioning, low speed positioning, products that you're not going to move, continually high cycles. These are meant again for positioning. We have high helix lead screws if you need quicker motion with less RPM. And we also offer self-locking trapezoidal lead screws for applications that you want self-locking benefits. On to the miniature series of actuators. So the first offering that we came up with, very popular in pipetting applications, has been our SLN. Again, this can be fitted with a NEMA stepper motor, and there's a version of it with preload. The rails look similar. They're 27mm wide. This rail, however, is a prism shaped on the inside and the inner guide surface here, and basically the carriage has a constant preload guided by spring for those of you looking for more rigidity, more repeatability from your system. And again, stepper motor can or cannot be included depending on your requirements. Another compact system is one we call SLT. This is available in two sizes. This is the larger of the two, the SLT 15, but as you can see, the lead screw has a slight offset. This can be set with adjustable clearance or preload as well. And again, stepper motor. This one here has the option of a optional sensor, which is mounted into an integrated channel there in the end block. All right, ZLN. So this is our low profile, narrow belt-driven system. The system is 40 millimeters high by 40 millimeters wide by 28 millimeters tall, and then it can change depending on the motor length that you've chosen. But again, higher speeds for small loads. I think the loading on here is published 80 newtons of max static axial or radial load, so it's meant for smaller applications. We do have a self-centering version, which we call the opposite drive as well. Probably everyone's favorite, at least of igus news from the past couple of years, has been this really sharp SLW 0620. So that's a 6mm guide rail, 20 millimeters wide, at least the guide rail is. It's available in silver or black. It's very small, it's very precise, has 4 different lead screw options at this point. A tight pitch 1/4 inch diameter all the way to a 1-inch lead 1/4 inch diameter lead screw. We have a version of this as well. You can see in the PowerPoint deck where the motor can be integrated without a coupling by using a spindle motor, so something like this on the end, which can keep the part shorter in length, where we don't need to use a coupling or a special motor flange like we would on some other systems. So very compact, accurate, and very small. And a couple of our specialist actuators. Here you see a GRQ. So this is a gear rack system used primarily for Z-axis, ideal for pipetting, ideal for small pick and place under 0.5 gram, or 500 grams, sorry. And our swivel lift unit. This unit can be used in robotic applications for pick and place. It uses that GRQ gear rack that I mentioned right here for the linear travel. And then there's a polymer gear guided by a stepper motor. So it's a very clean, low-cost solution to possibly pick and place or robotic applications on your machinery. Stepper motors, I think I mentioned before a few times that we do have a full line of stepper motors from NEMA 8 stepper motor all the way up to NEMA 34. In fact, we have one that has 12 Newton meters of torque if you're getting into if your lab machines are getting extra large. But aside from that, brushless DC and DC motors, the best thing that we've come out with in the past number of years for our actuator to complement them has been our D1 motor control unit. There's no extra software. This will run all igus motors. It can be controlled from your smartphone. The user interface is super easy to use. It's free. And if you go online, there's actually links to sample programs that you can download in here and adjust to watch how the application runs and maybe make tweaks. But it very, very neat solution here in D1. And D1 is kind of the catch-all. We also offer scaled down versions of this if you're looking to simplify your controls in your application. I wanted to really make sure that I hammered in on this particular subset of products from igus, and that would be our Dryspin lead screw systems, which we came out with maybe over the past 10 years. We've really developed these, and I'm pretty excited about the potential, especially in the lab automation sector. I mentioned earlier we have trapezoidal and Acme parts if you're looking for really fine pitch lead screws. But if you're looking for high helix lead screws, that's when we've developed this special one called Dryspin. Each of those can be used inside of a spindle motor actuator, and there's an online tool for that as well that can help size and determine lifetime in the spindle motor. But what's really great and exciting about Dryspin is that we research, lead screws. We actually had made lead screw nuts a number of years ago, but we really optimized it, and I feel like we really nailed it with this product line. Basically, we took the standard geometry of a standard lead screw and said, hey, you know what? The nut is the wear item. There should be a higher ratio of polymer nut to steel. And by doing that, we get 30% more surface area of the plastic lead screw nut as a wear device, and also achieve higher efficiency, better efficiency. And we rounded the corners. We've had a lot of problems that we've solved for customers who've had issues with lead screw noise in applications using other lead screw systems. Because our teeth are rounder and because of the shape of the part and our material, it's less prone to noise or vibrations. In fact, we took a big block of our iGlide J material and we threaded it with 3 lead screws. 2 of the lead screws were competitors, and the third one was the igus geometry. After we ran the testing, we realized that just by the virtue of the modifications that we made to the lead screw, that actually the system lasted longer, the system was more efficient, and had better lifetime. So that's a 1-to-1 just by virtue of the shape of the material itself, or the lead screw itself. Then when you add the igus material into the mix, you get the best of both worlds. Also, no Teflon lubricant, or there's no Teflon coating that's required on our screw systems. To get into a couple of applications, a lot of the work that we do has typically been in the diagnostic field, although I mentioned earlier we do have plenty of applications in imaging. We do have applications in other aspects of lab, but a lot of the applications that I'll show have to do with diagnostic analyzers. So this was a system here where, we saw this earlier, but you saw an SLN being used as a pipetter in an application. A lot of our parts control the movement of syringes, pipettes, and valves to ensure accurate dispensing and mixing, and have to be resistant to different types of contaminants and particles of wear. So again, the lubrication-free aspect comes in, and they don't require maintenance down the line. Here is a plate handler, and it's on the insertion and removal of the plates, which was formerly done by hand, so they've automated that task with this system that they created. It's using a number of igus components, from our energy chain to our slewing ring bearings, which are rotary bearings. It's depicted at the top of the screen with the arrow. as well as our ZLW0630 belt drive for the vertical application that you see there. Here we are in an IVD filling machine. They wanted something that was rated for clean room, and actually our parts can pass clean room. Different levels of ISO certifications for clean room depending on the application. In this case, they were using our trapezoidal lead screw nut, much like this one here, and using our W300 material. But again, they wanted a very clean system and wanted to make sure, although it wasn't a sterile environment, that it was near sterile. Another DNA diagnostic machine here using our actuators, and the top right corner, first off, we're moving the DNA samples over a heat exchanger, and that's being done by our igus Drylin linear actuators. Parts similar to this, a little bit wider, were used in 3 locations, and again, lubrication free, maintenance free, lightweight. You don't have to worry about it once you install it. Then we have a medication dispensing unit. So this company makes machines that take medicine from a larger sample and put it into a smaller package. So they don't want any lubrication around anything in this particular application. They're using an XY version of our SLW system again. So when I say XY, I mean something akin to this, where you get an X and a Y axis on one actuator. And again, it's guiding the plates into the heat exchange. Trace analysis, sample preparation, and cleaning using a ton of different igus parts. Our Drylin T, a lot of them are here. By the way, if you want a box on laboratory parts, we have a small sample box we can give. But Drylin T is this product right here. You can see it's quite small. This is the size 9. We actually go one smaller with the size 7. So they're using that. They're using our low profile Drylin N guides, as well as energy chain and a belt drive. Liquid handling, again, they wanted a compact system. They had a lot of chemicals in the environment that they wanted to make sure didn't impact the bearing sets, and they needed things to be very hygienic, so they looked to igus. And again, we're using igus energy chain. They're using a GRQ, the gear rack system I showed you earlier, our high flex cables, as well as our belt drive. You can kind of see some images of the application there. And finally, more of our lead screws used in liquid handling. Looking for extremely, I'm sure you all are looking for very clean products, as well as efficient products to use. So Drylin lead screws and lead screw nuts. All right, so that kind of covers the core of the presentation. I did want to go over a few other ways you could see igus. So I did mention that we could do on-site consultation. We also have something in Detroit, which we call the Enjoyneering Center, that went online just a few weeks ago. So if you're in the upper Midwest or the Detroit area, you want to gain the igus experience, see the parts on hand, and have presentations done by our sales teams, you're more than welcome to stop by the Enjoyneering Center. It's in Bloomfield Hills outside of Detroit. Just need to make an appointment. We also have a large booth here and in Germany, booth space that we call IMPS, which is the igus Motion Plastics Show, which we do virtual tours of with the product managers, with salespeople, to show you parts on site. If you wanted to gather a group of people and have an online presentation or a virtual presentation of that, please contact us. We do lots of mobile exhibitions. We have a van. We have this cargo trailer that you see here, where we can set up to do a show for you, as well as traveling trade shows, lunch and learns, and typical visits. Another couple of things I wanted to mention are we have also the igus Go app, which is an app that's available in the Google and Google Play, I think it's called, and the Apple App Store. These are basically, you can download this app to your phone, point it at a machine, point it at a piece of equipment. It will tell you where igus components have been used or could be used. It'll have a link to the web shop if you wanted to purchase those parts. It's actually pretty fun to use. I played around with it quite a bit. So if you're interested in that, please check that out. Other than that, again, we'll put these links on our lab automation information in the chat. And I really appreciate your guys' time. I know it's a lot. You're working, plenty to do, but thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar. If you have questions, the contact information, again, is available on the screen, I hope. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you, and again, appreciate your time. Thank you.